Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Switch launch episode of LWT. I know there are like tens of thousands of Switch episodes out right now, so I appreciate you checking out this one. We're going to do things a bit differently. I'm just going to tell you about my launch experiences, some of the games we played. I'm not going to go through the unboxing or all that because you can find that elsewhere. This is kind of a follow-up to some of the console episodes we've been doing. If you're interested in more Nintendo stuff, I did a Wii U post-mortem where I covered a lot of the Wii U notable games, and we started doing that for Wii. So I did the first couple years of the Wii, all the games that came out that are worth checking out. So check those out if you're interested. So for now, we're going to go through the Switch stuff, starting with the launch event, which I went to. The EB flagship store in Toronto held a big launch event. I think there were 3 stores in Toronto that had midnight launches for the Switch, but this is the one where they kind of tried to make it a bit more fancier, right? They had a giant mascot Mario, which was really cool looking. They had Finn Wolfhard there, who's an actor who plays Mike on Stranger Things. He was picking up his Wii. He did like a ribbon cutting to signal people can start picking up their Wiis at midnight. And he was, getting pictures taken with fans. He's giving out autographs, mostly on his pop figures that they were selling. And some people were showing up just for that, so that was interesting. There was tons of news coverage. The Inner Space was there, City News was there, a couple other news outlets were there covering it. So you might have seen that on TV the next day if you still watch TV. The flagship store had a surprising amount of not pre-ordered Switches. They had about 50 that they were, giving out to people who lined up early. Some people lined up as early as noon, so 12 hours before the launch. Although it sounds like, some people who got there, a quarter after 5 still managed to get a ticket for the thing. Although it was a pretty cold day and they had to wait outside for quite a while because I don't think they gave the tickets out till around 8:30. So, 8 hours in the cold or even 3 hours in the cold is not a great feeling, but I guess for those people to get their Switch, it was worth it. As far as people who pre-ordered, they could just line up, closer to midnight. The line was still pretty long by the time I got there at 11:30. In total, I would say there were about 150 people in line, and it took forever to get through. About 3 hours, I think it took to get through everybody, and it was brutal. Like, it moved really slowly, which was annoying. I know these things are hard to manage. Getting people through stores that quickly can be difficult, but in some cases, you would think that, they would start collecting people's payments as soon as they got there. So as soon as midnight hit, it was, here's your Switch, go. But they did the whole sales spiel. Do you want coverage? Do you want these accessories? And it took forever. So right off the bat, they had the Switch itself, which you could pick up. They had all the accessories, the different controller configurations you can get, the Pro controller. There was some swag they were giving out to people. For the first, I think about 50 people, they got these little red Switch bags. First 100 people got these Zelda posters, which are pretty nice, actually. The cardstock is really heavy, so it's a nice poster. And there were 5 games that were released physically, so you could get 1-2 Switch, which is kind of the showpiece of the system, Zelda, which was the one everyone wanted. They also had Just Dance 17, Super Bomberman R, and the Skylanders Imaginator set, which came with a portal and starting figures and that stuff. The Binding of Isaac was supposed to be out, but it was delayed. They also had a bunch of their usual accessories, third-party accessories. I picked up this case to basically carry the Switch with you when you go out. That was all I got at first, but out of some of the reports that came out later, I went back the next day and grabbed a screen protector for the Switch. It's, you can't really see it there, but there were 2 screen protectors. There's a more premium one that was a bit heavier and this lighter one. And so there are 2 problems with that stuff. The first is some people are reporting that they're scratching the Switch as they pull it out of their dock. I don't know if that's user error, if that's someone literally pulling forward as they're pulling out, or if that's something, Nintendo should be held accountable for, but I think Nintendo should take responsibility for that anyway. I mean, they already had a problem with the 3DS scratching the launch units of the 3DS. This thing they're marketing as family friendly. You can't expect every kid who plays with the thing to be gentle with it. That's something they should have considered. So I feel for those people, and I went out and got my screen protector. Another issue with the screen protector, I bought the cheaper one because there were reports that there's some adhesion problems with the way the Switch is designed. So I know there's been a big problem with decals. There was a company that was releasing some of those and just basically canceled all the orders, refunded everyone because the stickers just come loose, the adhesion comes loose, and it leaves some pretty crappy looking residue on the system. And I guess the more premium screen protectors, one customer at EB was saying, suffers from the same thing. So this one just goes right over top of the screen, so it's perfect. They were also selling, there were also some people lined up for just the Wii U copy of Breath of the Wild, which I think is, probably the best option at this point if you already have a Wii U. It's not going to perform as well as the Switch version, but with the cost of this thing and that being the only game that's really a must-have, that's probably a better option for most people. They had the 5 new Zelda amiibos as well. They launched that night, so those are pretty cool. I have them coming in the mail sometime, so I look forward to checking those out. Before I get right into the games, I want to talk a bit about the price, because I know it's an easy thing to complain about, especially with Nintendo stuff. The price of this thing is pretty crazy. I'm going to be talking mostly in Canadian dollars. Our dollar is low to the American dollar, so this numbers sound a lot higher, but they're still high in general. The Switch itself was $400 Canadian. It comes with, basically this controller adapter, which everyone I'm sure knows about, the dock, the Switch, the power adapter. You know what? The one thing worth mentioning is pretty cool. It's a power adapter. I'm kind of happy. It's a nice little, more like a cell phone power adapter size. It's not your honking bricks that they've had in the past, so that's a benefit. I really feel like for that value, they could have put in a bit more. This thing works okay, but it's not the way you want to be playing Zelda all the time. It's just uncomfortable. The Pro Controller is definitely the way you want to play most games. It's nice, it's hefty. I don't think it feels quite as nice as the Wii U Pro Controller, other than it being heavier. But for the most part, this is the best controller for the system. But that's $90, which is crazy in its own way. Also, if you want 2 more of these Joy-Cons, that's $90. I think they come with 2 of these straps. I might be wrong. These are sold separately for another, these are sold separately as well for another higher amount. You could get the red and blue ones as well, and you get the red and blue ones of these, but it just really starts to add up, because also, if you buy those, you don't get this as well with that. You got to buy this separately for, I don't even know how much, probably another $30-40. Maybe 20, I don't know. But everything just starts to add up like crazy. And these things really shouldn't be costing that much. I know Nintendo likes to turn a profit on all of their stuff, but an Xbox controller is $60-70 maybe. Same with PlayStation. You'd think they try and hit those targets, especially when they're expecting you to buy so much extra with the machine. Speaking of the games, the game prices are crazy for what you get. 1-2 Switch being, I think, $60 here. This thing it's a cool game. It's a showpiece for the system. It should have been packed in at $400. If they expect people to buy this console, there's nothing in there. There's no demo disc like the old days or anything. There's only one download on the store that you can play as a demo. This thing should have been packed in. If not, this thing should have been like $30-40 at the absolute most. Zelda is probably the only game worth the $80 that it costs. 1-2 Switch is got 28, I think. Yeah, 28 fun little mini games. The problem with that is none of them really. They're all designed to be played without looking at the screen. They're all designed to be played just by hearing the audio cues and moving the Switch controllers in ways that respond to those cues, which is a really cool idea, but not much of a video game. And so it's neat. It's a cool showpiece, but not something you're going to play with for very long. Zelda is obviously the system seller. I'm not the hugest Zelda fan, but I dig the series, and I've been waiting for something different for a while. I've been waiting for them to go to a more open world, exploration-based thing like the original couple Zelda games. And this one does it, although it maybe goes a bit too far. This feels like Zelda as designed by Ubisoft. It's beautiful, it's really fun, but it is a huge open world. You got to climb to the top of a tower to get icons on a map lit up so you can go find those objectives. It's very much like that. It is, instead of getting your 2 or 3 main swords throughout the game, you get tons of weapons you pick up and use. It is a Zelda meets, Far Cry meets Shadow of the Colossus maybe. It is a wicked game. I'm not trying to put it down. I'm just, I try to avoid pre-release hype on anything that I'm going to buy. So as soon as Zelda is announced, I'm going to buy it. I didn't watch many of the trailers and stuff. I love what they did with the world. I like that it's all barren and wastelandy. I love the gameplay changes. I think they're really cool. I think it strays a bit too far from the traditional Zelda formula for my liking, but it's an incredible game regardless. Let's go through some of the other games. Just Dance 17. Again, should have been a pretty cheap cost. I mean, that game, the funny thing about Just Dance 17 is it came out for all three Nintendo consoles. You can get it for the Wii still, you get it for Wii U and for Switch. And I know that's kind of a big seller for Ubisoft and a big family game. But again, the cost is just crazy. Super Bomberman R, another game that, it's worth noting, sold out. It is the only Switch game that's sold out. I mean, even Zeldas were still available everywhere, which is crazy because you would think that they wouldn't ship more Zeldas than they would Wii Switches, but they totally did. And or many people just didn't pick up Zelda for Switch, which I don't know who those people are. Well, back to Super Bomberman. Again, the only game that sold out, and it is an interesting game because it's a good showpiece for, like, it's the best physical game that came out to kind of bring and pass around and for people to play together with these, the Joy-Cons. It's the game that shows off their kind of tabletop mode. It's not the best Bomberman game. I don't think it's worth the $65 or $70 it costs. But it's interesting. It's got online play, so I played some online matches. Those worked all right. It's got a long single-player campaign that can be played co-op, which is really the only way to play it. It's got the typical battle mode, which can be played for 4 to 8 players if you got all the controllers and the systems to hook up and stuff. It's a crazy setup, but that's really the game that shows how these things work together. And finally, it's got the Skylanders game, which I didn't play. I've been out of love with Skylanders for a long time. I did dig the series at first, but it just got too crazy. And this is also a game that came out on the other systems, months ago. And I'm surprised that they don't have a card-only copy for that, because traditionally, the portals are good at working with multiple machines. You can have one portal that, depending on what machines you're playing with, you can use that on your PS4 and your Xbox and your Nintendo. The DS portals were different, but I would think they could do the same thing here if you're already a huge Skylanders fan and you've already bought that set. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to just buy the card itself. I know maybe the portal is completely different, but I don't think it had to be. Yeah, so that's all of the games. So let's get into some of the downloaded games now. The eShop is up. You can buy all of the physical games except for Skylanders, because you need the portal probably. They're all the same price as they would be in store. So there are 5 digital-only download games you can get from the eShop right now. Snipper Clippers is the only one that comes with a demo. So, if you're interested in checking that out, go to it in the eShop and you'll be able to download a demo for it. First is I Am Setsuna, which is $40 here, which is the Chrono Trigger inspired JRPG that launched on other consoles months ago. Again, still being at $40. I don't think they added anything extra to it. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. It's not really worth it for me. Also, the kind of reviews for the game say it's really cool in gameplay. It feels like Chrono Trigger in gameplay, but it doesn't have the heart that Chrono Trigger does, which is, it's hard to live up to the greatest RPG of all time. And I'd be willing to give it a shot. But $40 is a big ask. Also, Snipper Clippers, which is a weird little multiplayer game that came out. Well, it's got a single player campaign, but you're mostly focused on the multiplayer stuff, where you are these kind of papercraft figures and you cut pieces out of the different figures to make them line up in certain ways. It's a puzzle game. It's interesting. Again, I don't know if it's worth the price of admission, which here is like $27. I do recommend you check out the action-y modes. There's 3 mini games that are a little more action-packed. There's a basketball mini game, like an air hockey kind of mini game, and there's like a fighting arena mini game where you just try and cut more pieces off your opponent. It's kind of fun. Again, I don't think it'll have a big staying appeal, but it's another one of those games that really shows off how these things work, and it's a great game to bring around to play with other people. There are modes for 1 to 4 players in it. But you really want at least 2 or 4 players, because otherwise you're switching between the different characters. There is a racing game called Fast RMX, which I didn't check out. It's apparently the sequel to the Fast Racing Neo game on Wii U, which itself was a sequel to the Fast Racing League, which was on WiiWare. It looks like F-Zero and Wipeout. It's compared to F-Zero. It's rated pretty well, so if you're, it looks like something that's worth checking out. Finally, there's 2 different Shovel Knight packages you can buy. You can buy the new Spectre of Torment campaign. It's a prequel to the original Shovel Knight. It's if you like Shovel Knight, you'll like it. It's pretty good. It controls really well. It's a different style of character. It's a cool game for that. And you can also buy the Shovel Knight bundle, which is called the Treasure Trove, and it comes with the original Shovel Knight game, the first DLC campaign, which I think was on the Wii U disc, and it comes with this new one. So you can buy that instead and get all 3 Shovel Knight campaigns. So that's it. I gotta say, overall, I'm happy with The Switch, I wish it was cheaper. I mean, a lot of people complain about that, but that's not usually my thing. I feel like consoles generally justify the costs they come out with, but by the time you add in all the hidden costs of the controllers and games and stuff, this is an expensive Zelda machine. I am also surprised at some of the games that were held back and aren't coming out for a month or two. I think Puyo Puyo Tetris is a game I really would have liked to check out at launch. I think it would have been really cool to show off how you bring this thing around and play with multiple people. Mario Kart 8 would have been amazing for that too, and both of those games shouldn't really require that much development. I mean, Mario Kart's already out on the Wii U. I don't know how hard it is to port for the Switch, but if it's that hard, then Nintendo really messed up something. Puyo Puyo Tetris is already out in Japan on other machines. I'm also surprised that there's no Virtual Console stuff at all. I mean, I'm sure people are going to complain that their old games aren't going to carry over, which if you know by now, Nintendo, that's their style. Just when you pay for it, that's it. You got to buy it again if you want it on a new machine. But I'm still surprised not to see anything. You would think they would launch with a couple Virtual Console games. I think Japan got some Neo Geo titles. I'm surprised we didn't get anything. So that's about it. The next thing for this machine to look out for is Blaster Master Zero, which comes out this week, which is a game I'm actually looking forward to. And those other physical games that are coming out in the future. But overall, yeah, that's about it. I think that this thing is going to replace the 3DS soon. I mean, if you listen to those retrospectives, you'll know, I have a bit of a theory that pretty soon we're going to see the 3DS completely go away, and we're going to see a kind of Switch Mini or Switch Pocket or Switch Lite come out to replace that. And that's something I'm all for, because if I have the choice to dock it and play on the TV, I would much rather that than checking out any kind of, portable only game at this point. And it's also going to be cool to play games like Pokemon and some of these other games usually only come out on portables on the big screen. So check those out and stay tuned for more stuff. Thanks.